Fitness Business Podcast Snapshot. Today's special guest, Adrian Antigua, shares with us how important it is to push team culture through the chain of command, how to create a culture change post-COVID, and he gives advice on how to integrate the team culture from the start of the interview. All that and more coming up in today's show. Welcome to this week's episode of the industry's leading business podcast for fitness owners and managers. This month's interviews are brought to you by our podcast sponsor, One Fit Stop. One Fit Stop provides scheduling, client management, programming, and payment collection tools that will set your business up for success. To find out more, go to onefitstop.com or click on the link in today's show notes. Hello, everyone. I am your host, Dory Nugent, and welcome to the Fitness Business Podcast. Are you ready to learn about team culture from one of the best? Well, then it's your lucky day, FBP family, because Adrian Antigua is my special guest. Adrian is the GM and sales manager for Gainesville Health and Fitness located in Florida. Upon graduating from the University of Florida, Adrian discovered his passion for fitness, the power of what a strong company culture can do, and the quest for perfecting the member experience. Gainesville Health and Fitness is a gorgeous 75,000 square foot club with more than 28,000 members that was recently recognized as one of the best small companies in America by Forbes Magazine. Now, I know you're excited, but before we transition into this week's interview, let's first hear a message from our friends at One Fit Stop.
We'd like to thank our sponsor, One Fit Stop, for their support, and we highly recommend all fitness professionals go to onefitstop.com to find out how their software will enable you to take control of day-to-day management in your fitness business. One Fit Stop's scheduling, client management, programming, and payment collection tools will set your business up for success.
Hey, welcome, Adrian, to the Fitness Business Podcast. It is so great to have you on the show today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yes, and you are from Gainesville Health and Fitness, which is located in sunny Florida. You are super lucky to be working in the Sunshine State.
It is the Sunshine State. However, we've had 5 straight days of rain, so we are underwater at the moment.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe tomorrow you will go back to being the Sunshine State.
Yeah.
So Gainesville Health and Fitness, very well known. I've read a lot of things on the web about Gainesville, and one common word that continues to pop up is about your company's culture. I know Forbes Magazine, I saw even recognize Gainesville as one of the best small companies in America. So tell me a little bit about the culture at Gainesville and why Forbes looks at you as one of the best places, the best small companies to work in. And again, a lot of media coverage throughout the industry recognizing Gainesville as a club with culture.
Yeah. So I would be remiss if I didn't start with just talking about the top. Gainesville Health and Fitness is owned by Joe Cerulli, and he's part of our company every single day, and he's what drives our leadership and drives our culture of our teams. And it's from him that stems everything else down. Culture, it's a hard thing to define, I think, and that, it's not something that you see or or visibly, but it's something that you feel when you go into a place. It's just, that it's a presence around you. And again, that starts from the top, and then making sure that each of our members of our employees, all of our employees, are fitting into that culture and the core values of what we have. And so everything we do from all the way down to the hiring of our employees is centered around what we feel are the most important core values, and looking for people that would really fit into our family and focus more on the individual themselves versus hiring for specific tasks. And I think that's probably one of the most important key aspects that we do is we hire for the people versus than the skill and talent of themselves specifically.
Oh, I totally agree. I live by the motto that I think you can teach just about anybody the skill. But yes, you can't teach everybody to be a part of your community or want to be a part of your community or part of your culture. So totally agree with you on that. Yes.
Yeah, 1,000%. You know, you can teach somebody how to check in. You can teach somebody the processes of how to fill out a membership, but you really can't teach somebody how to smile. You know, just the simple thing of that makes the biggest difference in the world for us.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think you're right. It's not always something that you can exactly explain. It's just an energy that is created by a group of people that have the same value, the same core, you know, want to do good. You want to see success, and you want to work together to achieve that. So absolutely. And it's tough to find. It's really tough. So when you do have that culture, I think, you got to hold on to it and do whatever you can to keep it.
Mm-hmm.
So Jocko Willink, I'm not sure if you know him. He's an ex-Navy SEAL, has written a couple of books, also has a podcast, and he talks a lot about company culture. And he uses the chain of command with the Navy SEALs to talk about and takes that and puts it into company culture and tries to teach that. And he talks a lot about it starting at the top. And that same cultural value needs to be the same all the way at the very bottom. So that bottom person that might just be, you know, your part-timer that's maybe working the front desk, or maybe somebody that's on your hospitality crew, that they have the same exact feeling about the company as Joe would at the very top. Would you agree with that?
1,000%. You know, for us here, it's exactly, you couldn't have described it better, in that everybody is treated exactly the same, and the expectations for everybody is exactly the same as well too. For us, I mean, one of the things that we even discussed with every employee moving forward is that everybody's a housekeeper. You know, some people look at the housekeeper as the bottom of the totem pole, but for us, it's not. If anything, it's at the highest of importance for us. And everybody, including Joe, picks up the trash and makes sure that we pick up after the club. And it starts with simple things like that, you know, that everybody does their part, and nobody's above any other position in the company. So everybody's doing a little bit of everything they can to just make sure we're all moving forward.
Absolutely. Now, Adrian, just let me ask you a little bit about coming back into post-COVID. You know, clubs are starting to reopen, and things are definitely different from the day you closed your doors, which might have been somewhere in maybe the end of March, from the time that you're opening your club, or maybe you just opened your club. There's a good chance that the culture might change. You know, people have had a lot of time to be at home, and they're stressed out from COVID. Maybe they're stressed out financially because they haven't been working. Let's look at that within the club. Is as a leader, do we embrace that? Do we accept that as a challenge? Do we panic about that? How much attention do we focus on coming back now? And the culture might be a little rocked within our club.
Yeah, you know, I'll be actually the first to speak up in that amongst our team here, in that I was honestly the person who was most worried about that amongst our team. You know, is the culture of our team going to be different, and who is going to come back on our team? But at the same time, I was also the person who was most surprised in that, and I shouldn't have honestly been surprised, because it really fit to the people that were on our teams already, in that people were excited to come back. People were excited to be here, and they were willing to do whatever we needed to do to make sure that we were successful moving forward. And so, you know, again, as I mentioned just a little bit before, housekeeping was always a high priority for us. And it continues to be so, obviously, now more than ever. And so that's what we really made sure we stress across the team, is that everybody's a housekeeper. And it's been amazing to see that moving forward, everybody has embraced that, and nobody feels that they're below that by any means. And so I think that that's probably one of the biggest things that I've noticed on our teams coming back, is that everybody's been willing to do their part. Everybody's been willing to do a little bit extra. And it's been, again, a great testament to show that we had the right people on our team, pre-COVID and post-COVID moving forward. At the same notion, I think a lot of people were looking for normalcy at the same time too. So people were also just excited to get back into somewhat of a normal process of things that they did in the past. And so I think that also absolutely helped into people coming back and being excited to help out in whatever way they could.
That's awesome. That's great to hear. So you're coming from a club that, again, culture's good, teamwork is high, everybody's kind of in there doing whatever they need to do. The big push right now on the business side of the industry is, hey, now's the time for change in clubs. If you're going to make any changes, whether it's to processes or billing or even maybe aesthetically to your club, now's the time to make the change. What advice, coming from a club that has a solid culture, what would you give to a club that says, okay, you know what, when we closed the doors, the culture really wasn't that great amongst our staff, but I'm going to make that a high priority. What advice do you have for that club owner, or maybe that GM, or maybe even just a department head, that now's the time and here's the change that we're going to make? What advice do you have for them for culture change?
Yeah, I think that question needs to be turned back to that individual, whether it is the owner, whether it is the GM who's making decisions, or anybody else, is that if they are saying that there needs to be a change that needs to be made, I would take a step back and say, okay, why do we need to make that change in the first place? Is that because of me? Or is that because of something that we've done wrong? Or and then ultimately, is that what's best for our company? I think a lot of people are quick to jump to making changes, but don't take into effect, what does that mean for them? And does that fit who they are as a company and who they are as a culture, who they are as a person? Because it may not be what they are built to do, but also I do also understand that sometimes there are some necessary changes that need to be along the way with that.
Yeah. And then in that change, Adrian, let's say you have somebody amongst your staff that is not fitting the culture of the club. How does Gainesville handle that?
Yeah. So there's definitely, we get that a lot every now and then, as far as, those few bad apples that slip through the cracks. For us, when that happens, we have a step-by-step process for that. And the first thing we always do when we find that bad apple is the first reflection on ourselves as leaders is, what did we do wrong? Did we not communicate our message thoroughly? Did we not give them the proper directions? What did we miss in the process of bringing on this individual? Because obviously they made it through this interview process, if they have an extensive one, and they showed some light that they were going to be great at what they did. And so our first step is taking a reflection upon ourselves and what do we miss. Second is then making sure we relay to the person, hey, these are the things that we need to work on. If I wasn't clear before, I want to make sure it's extremely clear now. So let's sit down, let's talk about the step-by-step process we need to do to make these improvements along the way. So that way, the first time they do something wrong, it's not their fault, it's ours, right? But then the second time they make that same mistake, so on and so forth, we know we've done the due diligence to really explain how it should have been done, or how we want them to act, or whatever else it may be. And the second time it happens, it's no longer our fault, it's now theirs. So that's really our step-by-step process as to, going through that coach up or coach out moments for those individuals.
Right. Perfect. Absolutely. Yeah. I love the way you look at that. First time, your problem, right? Maybe it was you hired that person at a time that there was craziness going on at the club, first of the year, probably the worst time to hire somebody. Because sometimes, it's just that the club's so busy, they get lost or they slip through the cracks sometimes. And you're right. It might not just be their fault. So I like the fact that you kind of look at it the first time, hey, it's our fault. But then the second time, then the employee needs to take a little bit of ownership.
Absolutely. And if they do end up having to be let go, or they let themselves go, as we say really here, our next step then is we go all the way back to the hiring process. And we look at that application. We look at their group interview, their one-on-one interview, and so on and so forth, and really try to digress it as a team and see, okay, what did we miss with that individual along the way? What questions did we not ask? So that way we can tailor our questions for the next individual who applies and make sure we don't make those mistakes again moving forward.
Yeah, I was going to, it's funny you mentioned that. I wanted to ask you about your interview process. I'm going to assume at this point you have put a piece in your interview process that talks about culture and the expectation that Gainesville has. What could you explain to our listeners? Maybe, is there a specific question, or is there just a specific thing that you, during the interview, that you stress upon with somebody new that you're hiring to make sure that they fit the culture of Gainesville?
Yeah, well, everything around our interview process is centered around our four core values. And so every process, from the sit down to where they're just submitting their application, to the group interview, to the one-on-one interview, and the workout interview, and I'll talk about that in a second too, is centered around the four core values what we have. And so in addition to that, we set up a series of basically mini tests along the way. And I call them mini tests is because I want to put people in situations into where they can be not rehearsed, in non-rehearsed situations, to where it really shows their true self. And so that's what our interview process is centered around. It's multifaceted, so that way they can't just stage it themselves one day, but we'll see them in different situations and different times. And again, it's all centered around who they are as a person and what we're really looking for, that they fit our team.
That's nice. Well thought out. Very nice. Is that something new, or has that something you, Gainesville has been doing for a while?
This has been a process we've had for some time now. So it's been something that's been tweaked over time. And so we've got a lot of unique things in our interview process, such as we play a game in our group interview. So it's not just a typical, in a group interview where we're asking a group of questions. We actually play a game with them. And again, the reason why we play the game is so that way we could put them in I guess you can call it an uncomfortable situation, or just something they can't rehearse, because we're looking to see how they interact with other people. How well do they really follow directions? How well do they communicate with their team in that group interview? And a lot of people will ask us about this group interview and try to duplicate it, and we're happy to share all that information. But ultimately, what I suggest to whenever anybody asks us about it is to just pick a game. Most game boards are centered around some sort of team aspect or some sort of communication, and it really will allow you to see what somebody's true background is and what their true culture is once you start playing that game.
So Adrian, this is pretty cool. What types of games do you play, and how long do you play the game?
Yeah, so for us, we have a very specific game. We call it the hiring game. So there's so many different facets to it. Parts of the game are where somebody has to role play. So role play different scenarios. It could be something where we create this scenario that they're in a department store and something goes wrong, and then they have to act it out. Another facet of the game is there's a group of cards to where they all have to come up with their best hand, which represents themselves, but there's also a team hand, and that has to best represent the team. So how are they going to work and interact with each other? But again, that's specific to us. However, there's other people that I can think of where, Mark Miller, for example, I remember him mentioning at one point in time from Merit Athletic Clubs that they would play games like Monopoly and other board games that they can pull out, which again help to just represent and show how does this person interact with other people, different things like that.
That's funny. I was going to say to you, would you play like Monopoly or, Battleship? And you'd be like, you sunk my battleship. And then the person flips out or something. And you'd be like, well, I don't think they're a good hire.
Yeah. I mean, that's a great point, right? And so what better way to exemplify that? And then at the same time too, it just brings an aspect of fun. And that's what we want to make sure we share as well too, is that, it's not this place where you go to and you're going to be bored working at, but right away there's an aspect of fun to it. And that's what you're going to expect as you continue working with us moving forward.
Yeah. And, I love that you say about the aspect of fun, because when a lot of people ask me about working in the fitness industry, one of my first answers is it is so much fun. I believe it's an industry that allows you to have fun. So I'm going to assume, I'm going to go back to the whole post-COVID, and even though COVID is not over with, but I'm talking in the sense of businesses opening back up and hopefully life trying to resume to some normalcy. As one of the top leaders of your club, what have you and other leaders of your club been doing just to help keep the culture? Have you been doing any type of meetings, videos, walk-arounds, and visit everybody from the different departments, or phone calls? Is there anything that your team, your upper management team has been doing to just kind of retouch and reconnect with your employees?
Sure. Yeah, there's a bunch of things I could speak to that. So I think the most important thing is that we're just there and we're present. And so when we reopened, what I made sure that myself, along with my other managers, that they were doing was making sure that they were working right there with their teams, and putting them in the positions where we knew that there was going to maybe be the most issues or concerns. So like for myself, I staged myself at the front desk because I know that was where most of the questions were going to be coming into. And, how are we going to do this, or how are we doing that? And I wanted to make sure I was there for my team, so that way they weren't just left out in the open to do these, answer these questions right away, but they could see how we handle these questions, and they can also understand that we're there to help and give them that support along the way too. So I would say that just being there again with your team and working with them in the forefront is going to be huge right off the bat. But in continuing with that, we do a lot of meetings in our company. I feel that the meetings are important to really just make sure we stay centered as to what the most important things are. And so we've used a series of things from, meeting with our direct managers to holding team meetings, department meetings, and so on and so forth. But also just continuing on things like our message board through Slack, and making sure each week we're posting and sharing with them, hey guys, these are the changes that we've made, or before we even opened, these are the things we're working on. These are the things that we're doing to make sure it's safe for you, along with our members, and making sure that we really communicated as much as possible to those teams, all the way down to the individuals, as to what was most important for both them as well as for our membership base, and just, again, letting them understand that we were there for them. Again, I think that it all kind of comes back to that, is that we were going to be present with them all the time. No matter what.
Yeah, I like that term about being present. I love the term and fitness. The podcast, Chantel kind of sunk her teeth into a phrase called "in the trenches," which I love that phrase as well. And I just think employees, I think the best thing you can do for your employees is to let them see, meaning the management team, that they're in there fighting the fight with you. They're doing the hospitality work, and they're at the front desk, and they're in the direct line of fire when the members are coming up to the desk, and maybe they're not so happy, or maybe they even just have a couple questions. So I do think it's very important, like you said, to be present, and then also for the employees to know, see, and feel that you're in the trenches with them. You're relatable. You're one of them.
Yeah, I think just showing that you're available. And in addition to, again, just being in the trenches, that you're available to answer those questions. So we let all the team know, which, again, we also did pre-COVID and all that too, that they can message us, call us, whatever else, and we'll respond as quickly as possible. I think that's one of the great benefits of being, a private-owned club is that we can do that all the way up to the top. So, we've had members contact Joe directly, and he calls them back the same day. Same thing with the employees. And so it's one of the fantastic things that I think we're able to do by us staying a little bit smaller than, I guess, other companies when they get larger in that sense.
Right. Definitely a little more challenging the larger that you are. Adrian, you have one thing that Gainesville does, something fun for their employees to help cultivate the culture there. I don't know, do you have an employee of the month? Do you do department happy hours? Do you have a special parking spot for somebody that maybe has earned it? Is there one thing that your club does that maybe you could just give some ideas to other owners or GMs out there listening? Yeah,
I think if I had to pick just one thing, what I would pick is we developed something called the Eagle Program. And really it's Joe who developed what we call the Eagle Program. And how we developed that program is, and what it is, it's basically an employee recognition program. But how he developed it was, as several years back when he was going through renovations at the club, he was going through so many different things, staying up throughout the night, and was getting a series of complaints. And all we had at that time were complaint boxes around the club. And at the same, as he was reading through these, he realized, all the people that he's working with, is that he's got really a great team, and he's got other people there who are working just as hard as him. And he's sure that other people, the members specifically, recognize them, but understood and realized that, there wasn't a place for them to share that recognition like there was for them to share the recognition of the issues in the club. And so we created this program we call the Ego program. And it's basically a comment box where our members can write back to us all the things where they see an employee go above and beyond, where they go above and beyond the call of duty, to really highlight them and thank them for all the things that they've done for us. And so what we do from that is we get a good series of those throughout the month. And from those submissions, we'll pick a group of the best ones, and we'll actually bring them out to a dinner with myself, with Joe, and a few other managers, and really just thank those employees for all the great things they've done. So I think that's probably the number one thing I can think of, is just being able to create some sort of recognition for your employees, because they go above and beyond all the time. And I think it's something that we just need to do a better job of. I know I need to do a better job of, even with that program, of just making sure we share all the great things that they do.
That's awesome. So you do a dinner a couple times a year, would you say?
We do it every month.
Every month.
Mm-hmm.
That's nice. You know what? Listen, it also gives employees that maybe didn't get selected to go to the dinner. It definitely makes them aware, and hopefully to strive. I know I would be like that. I'd be like, hey, I want to be a part of that dinner. So I would definitely be stepping up my game, my game, so that I would be able to be in that group. That's
Absolutely.
Really neat. I like that. And any tips, ideas, sometimes we just, as leaders, draw blank sometimes on ideas. So I really like that one. So Adrian, we're going to just wrap up our interview. I have one more question for you. And this is our Keep Me Fit Bitspiration.
Get your pen ready now for Keep Me's Fit Bizpiration.
I'm going to ask you to give 3 tips to, again, the owners out there listening, the GMs and the department heads, on coming back from being closed. Just give me 3 tips to lead your team through this newfound change, all the new processes and the way we do things, and the way we had to change the way, obviously the clubs are changing the way they're holding programs and they're checking members in and out and all of that. 3 tips that the leaders out there to lead your team through through change.
Sure. The first thing I would say is, first, over-communicate your message, both to the members as well as to your employees. Over-communicate to them what are all the things that you're doing, and making sure that they understand also why you're doing those things as a company. And it really just shows what you're passionate about, and brings the team together and understand that they're all working towards something similar in that sense. The second thing I would say is what I was talking about earlier in regards to putting yourself in the trenches, is go through those changes with your team, and put yourself in those positions to where you're going to help your team out in the most important areas as possible. And obviously every area of the club is important, but again, working with them and you being down there in the trenches with them is so extremely important for them to have your support, and for them to be behind your back, and then to continue that on when you're not there as well too. And then I think the last thing I would say, for people who are opening up or may not have opened up is, I know it's hard to do this, but to really try to stay calm in the process. There's so many things going on left and right, so many changes that happen, within a day even, but really just try to stay calm and know that everything that you're doing is for your members and for your team, as long as you're doing it for the right reasons, and that they are there to support you and help you out as well too.
Awesome advice. I think my favorite piece there you said is, I like when you said that over communicate and tell your employees why. And I put that why in quotation marks, because so many times leaders, they'll just kind of send out, hey, this is what we're doing and this is how I need you to do it. But the employee sometimes sits there and reads that and says they don't understand why it's being done. And then I always think that's sometimes where it gets a little gray, where you can lose an employee sometimes because people like to understand why they have to do what they're being asked to do. So I absolutely love that.
Keep Me, smarter member retention. KeepMe.ai.
Well, Adrian, it has been a pleasure talking to you about cultivating team culture. It's so important right now more than ever, I think, with clubs reopening and getting a fresh start. So I thank you so much for your knowledge and sharing it with all of our listeners and also your time, of course.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm honored to be on the show and share whatever we can and available to anybody if they have other questions or anything else. So please feel free to reach out anytime.
Absolutely, because you put a lot of great things out there. So we'll make sure your contact information is available. So please, listeners out there, contact Adrian if you have any questions, especially about the employee recognition program I thought was pretty cool. Adrian, thank you so much and have an awesome day and go inspire down there in that sunshine state the second that sun comes out, okay?
Appreciate it. Thank you. Take care.
And a warm thank you once again to Adrian Antigua of Gainesville Health and Fitness for taking the time for our Fitness Business Podcast family to share some insight on how to build an amazing team culture. And now here's a message from our podcast partner, Tribe Team Training.
Are you interested in increasing your center's income and your trainer's income from small group training? Tribe Team Training is the new way to get more members engaged in small group training and paying extra. Click the Tribe Team Training link in the show notes or go to tribeteamtraining.com.au/podcast for your free formula to see how much income you can make from small group training.
Quickfire 5.
Calling all my Group Xers out there. This next episode is just for you, so mark your calendars as we focus on the future of group fitness with expert Ingrid Knight-Cohe. Ingrid, why do you do what you do?
Oh my, I think I learned early on that a desk job would not be for me, and being physically fit and active really empowered me to live my best life. So it quickly became a personal and professional mission to share that resource with as many people as possible. So I try to motivate, inspire, and educate others to become as physically fit as possible to lead their best life.
Yeah, I would say being a group fitness director, you're far from working a desk job.
Absolutely.
All right. Number 2, what is one ritual that helps you become better at what you do?
I would say other than an excellent cup of coffee first thing in the morning, my other ritual is really trying to practice what I preach or take my own advice. And I think all fitness professionals can appreciate, we're coaching, we're teaching, we're doing a lot, but we need to remember to do for ourselves. So I do try to, maintain the ritual of at least 30 minutes a day of doing something for myself, whether that's my own yoga stretch routine or a quick run, trying to get outside, just pursuing my own physical activity definitely grounds me and re-energizes me so that I can re-energize others.
Oh, that's definitely a great ritual. Definitely. Number 3, what app or system do you use to stay in control of your workload?
Oh, wow. I think in this age of technology, communication is constant and everywhere. So I can't remember where I heard it or learned it, but the 3D approach to kind of managing incoming information is definitely something that works for me. So 3D being to do, to delegate, or to delete. So, information, not only email, but texting nowadays, it can just be so much volume, but really trying to identify things that need doing right away versus things that, I can pass on to somebody else capable versus things that just aren't serving me. Dividing it up that way kind of helps manage the incoming information and makes the workload a lot more manageable.
No, I really like the way you put that. That was very nice. And how about a book, a podcast, or blog that you would recommend to our listeners, and why?
I'm pretty old school. I love books, love the feel of actually flipping pages. And I would say a book that I've actually revisited, especially during these challenging times, has been a book called Mindset. And that's by Carol Dweck. It's a phenomenal read because it's all about a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. And I think particularly in challenging times or times where we're tasked with, perhaps adapting to a new normal or reinventing ourselves, having that positive mindset and ability to, again, adapt and evolve is far more effective and efficient than being stuck in old ways of thinking. So that would be my recommendation for a really good read that can be really applied to both personal and professional life.
Yes, and it sounds like in the times that we're in, it's a very fitting book to read. So great recommendation. And then finally, what topic will you focus on in your main interview?
I will be focusing on group fitness. I've been in the industry for about 25 years now, and really in some shape or form, group fitness has always been in the center of it. So I'll be talking about the value of group fitness, both as a sales and retention tool, and really where we see group fitness in this next phase, where it's going from here.
Oh, awesome. I'm looking forward to your episode. Thank you so much, Ingrid. Stay tuned for Ingrid's episode coming soon. And now, here's a message from our podcast partner, MX Metrics.
Member experience is more than just NPS. With MXM's Member Experience Toolkit, you build a unified view of the member experience, from purchase to onboarding to everyday usage and cancellation. Wire your entire organization with actionable feedback using MXN's Member Experience Toolkit. To find out more, go to mxmetrics.com. Hi everyone, Chantal here. In each episode from July onwards, you and I are going to take a little trip down memory lane as I share some of my all-time favorite episodes from the past 5 years of the show. This week's Rewind show is episode 165, featuring Michael Piercy, and it was called Impacting Your Community to Grow Your Fitness Business and Brand. I chose this episode because given everything that's happened around the world with COVID, there couldn't be a better time to have a rethink about our community and what we're doing to support them in the weeks, the months, and the years ahead. So take a listen to that episode today by clicking on the link in today's show notes or going to fitnessbusinesspodcast.com and searching for the episode number 165. Happy listening, and I'll speak to you next week.
Hi FBP family, it's JT from Active Management, the founding partner of the Fitness Business Podcast. Thanks to the amazing technology at our fingertips, we can now work with clients all over the world. But right now, you can join the free online Active Management Facebook community. It's an amazing group of people just like you. Sure, I share weekly resources, but it's the power of the community that you will experience that will make this your go-to Facebook group. Remember, it's free, fun, and inspirational. Go to facebook.com/groups/active management community.
Thank you for joining me for this week's show. And a reminder that all the resources and links for today's episode can be found at fbp.com. And thank you to our founding partner, Active Management. Active Management is a fitness business coaching company that helps clients all over the world. And this month, I have a business tip for you all. Join the Active Management Facebook community. It's an amazing group, and you will meet like-minded fitness owners and managers from across the globe. Just go to facebook.com/groups/active management community. It is a highly engaging community where JT from Active Management shares loads of resources photos from inside gyms, reasons to exercise, a monthly book club, challenges, and even ideas under $50. It's free and an awesome community. Facebook.com/groups/active management community. What you leave behind is not what's engraved in stone monuments, but what is woven into the lives of others.